Continuing with our origami estuary, let's go ahead and talk about breeding grounds now. So this is on the second page of your fill in the bubble handout. And let's go ahead and write first, and then we'll draw on our estuary. So an estuary is an important breeding ground for all kinds of species, fish species, birds, crustaceans, all use the protected area of an estuary for breeding. Commercial fisheries depend on them. So people that catch fish for a living, they know that those fish that they catch breed in the estuaries, and so they want to protect it. So let's go ahead and add that here on our drawing. So we have all of these fish, and we'll just say it's a breeding ground right here in the middle. And it's not just for fish, but it's also really important. Bird species have their nests here, and then larvae from things like crabs or other animals have a more protected place to rear their young and to lay their eggs. All right, remember you can pause the video whenever you need to. Let's talk about productivity. So because there's a huge biomass of producers in here, there is huge amounts of photosynthesis happening. We have algae, phytoplankton, and plants. So we have all kinds of things in here. And then we have our rivers that are bringing nutrients for plants. So plants need nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and they're flowing down the rivers. And then there's also high decomposition, which equal more nutrients. And then it's lots of bacteria do the decomposition here. So I should write that in as well. So lots of bacteria do the decomposition, in which that also provides nutrients. So we have nutrients coming down from above, and then also from decomposition. So first, let's go ahead and we have, of course, our kelp. They're producers, right? But we also have our seagrasses are producers, and our salt marsh are producers. In the rocky intertidal zone, we have algae, we have phytoplankton, we have seagrass that grows in there. Oops, sorry, I didn't show you that part. I just kind of colored that green. But also all throughout here, all over, you have small microalgae. So small algae, macroalgae is our kelp, microalgae all over here. So high productivity. And our two ecosystems here, it looks like we have chaparral on this side and we have a forest on this side. But what comes down from the river is the river flows this way. So this is river water coming in, right? And then this is ocean water. Sorry, you can't see that. So river water comes in this way, and then ocean water comes in this way. And so you have this mix. You have river water and you have ocean water, and you have this mix in here, which creates our brackish water, part salty, part fresh. But the river is bringing in from downstream nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. So I'm just going to put, because mostly for our productivity, it's nitrogen and phosphorus. So I'm just going to put N's and P's all over here to show you that there's tons of nutrients in here, and those nutrients create all the productivity that we have as well. So it's starting to get a little messy. That's why I removed some fish. Going on. And also throughout here, we have our bacteria that are decomposing things a lot too. All right, so ecosystem services. So here's some things that estuaries do that are important for humans. So an ecosystem service is something that humans get from nature for money or survival. So estuaries build land through sediment transport, which buffers storms and hurricanes and saves money. So these sand flats here, mud flats, sand flats, they buffer storm action. And when they disappear, and they can disappear through through damming, because damming prevents sediments from coming down. But they protect from storm damage. So I'm going to say protect. The sand flat protects from storms. Okay, so our sediment building, we build land. It protects from storms. Oh, here's another piece of land here. So we have these little islands in a lot of places, not necessarily off of our coast. We don't see that too much, but in the south, you're going to find where the Mississippi River empties into the Gulf of Mexico around New Orleans. You will have all of these flats. They're called flat areas where sediments have come down and they build land. And those land, you can't really live on that land, but they're hugely important to buffer the shore from hurricane damage. Okay, another one is that it cleans the water from pollution from the river. So if your river has polluted water from industries, from chemicals, from heavy metals, the plants in the estuary can clean that water before it enters the ocean. Estuaries, tourists love to come and visit estuaries to bird watch, to take walks, to photograph, to paint. Fisheries increase the catch and profit from their fish. So the more estuaries are there, the more fish they can catch and sell. And then there's also cultural value in these estuaries, which reduce stress and save money and medical costs. So these are a lot of ecosystem services provided by estuaries. And then we have eutrophication is one problem from nutrient runoff. So now we have these cows, right? So now we're going to talk about the cows, dairy and agriculture. So and it's not just dairy, it also can be cattle farms for eating. Dairy is for milk, but cattle farms are feedlots and things for eating hamburgers. So all of that waste, and it's not just cows, it can be pigs too. It could be the fields of corn or whatever, but they're going to have their waste can fall into the ocean. And so it's actually going to be kind of hard with a colored pencil. So I'm going to do it with a marker. It's a little bit easier. And so you have too much N and P in their poop. So nitrogen, phosphorus is going to end up down here. And from excess fertilizer too. So animal poop, which we call manure, and fertilizer for plants can have too much nitrogen and phosphorus, can flow into your estuaries and cause eutrophication and into the ocean. So you're like, but I thought N and P was good. Look at all these N and Ps brought from the river. Yeah, so plants producers, seaweed or producers, so any producer needs nitrogen and phosphorus, but when there's too much, you can get too much algae and cause eutrophication and algal bloom. The algae dies, eats up all the bacteria that decompose the algae, use up all the oxygen, and you end up with a dead zone. So that's one of the problems here is eutrophication. So we want the right amount of N and P for productivity, but we don't want too much because it can end up destroying the ecosystem. All right, then the next one we have here is deforestation, which is soil erosion and sediment pollution. Okay, but I thought we wanted sediments to come down and build little pieces of land to protect from hurricanes. We do, we just want natural process. The problem with deforestation and I know I didn't split this correctly, I wrote deforestation of these forests, is that you end up with some sediment pollution coming down here. And if you have too much soil sediments coming down because of erosion, so erosion happens here and then it flows in, it can muddy the water and block photosynthesis from producers in the water. So you want sediments that come down to build your land in your wetland, but too much is a problem as well. Sediment pollution can make the water too muddy, and again, it can block the light from our photosynthesizers. And it can also fill up, it can clog the gills of fish, so all of that muddy water can kill off fish and other species because it can clog their gills. So that is a threat to estuaries as well. It can be drained and filled in for agriculture and development. So I'm right here on the third bullet point. We can't demonstrate that here, but well, let's do this over here on this little island here. So this is our little Chaparral Island. So it's not really an island, it's probably the mainland. But if we go ahead and draw a house here, we can sort of demonstrate that that is one way. We build houses and we fill in. So we actually take soil and fill in parts of the wetlands so that we can build on top of it. And so that's a threat. And then the next one is that we have dams upstream on rivers that prevent sediments and nutrients from entering the estuaries. So we can have that problem as well. The sediments won't come down. So we want just the right amount of sediments that are brought naturally from the rivers and not too much from erosion. Okay. And then we have water pollution. So any kinds of, a lot of times bridges are built over estuaries, and the road pollution from cars, oils, or tire rubber or things like that can wash from the bridges into the estuaries. And then another problem is that your river water can be diverted into aqueducts. An aqueduct is a man-made river, and we actually get half our water from aqueducts in Santa Clarita. And that river water won't make it here, so it's going to alter our estuary. Our estuary won't be as full because now you're just have the ocean water. It can come in as far as high tide, but you're not having as much of the river water coming in. So your estuary size is going to shrink, and it's going to be saltier because you have less river water, because that river water is diverted to other places. The Colorado River is like that. Hardly any Colorado River water actually enters the ocean. It would enter the ocean. It does sometimes still enter the ocean between California and Arizona, that border, and it empties into the ocean in the Gulf of California, which is between Baja California and mainland Mexico. Those wetlands there, those salt marshes there are in trouble. They have very little fresh water coming into those wetlands. All right, so that is the notes. Hopefully this helps you understand wetlands and estuaries better. Wetlands and estuaries are a big part of the AP test. They always ask questions about wetlands, so hopefully this helps you understand it a little bit better by doing this hands-on.